Welcome to Trump Breaking News Network, your daily source for up-to-date news on the political scene of Donald Trump, his presidency, American politics and conspiracies. Please subscribe to receive notice of our daily updates. Also share with your friends and your social media. We encourage you to like our videos and give your comments.
This is TBNN.
Trump's $285 million budget cut hurts the UN a lot more than you'd think. Former White House advisor Sebastian Gorka claimed the U.S. pays over 20% of the UN budget on Fox and Friends Saturday. "We are paying more than 20% of the UN's budget. If you look at the peacekeeping activities, the military side of the house, we are paying almost a third, 28%, Gorka said. The U.S. must pay 22% of the UN budget for 2016 to 2018. The U.S. contributes an even higher share for some agencies within the UN. The UN determines required contribution levels for each member state based on factors like gross national income and debt. Based on this calculation, the U.S. paid 22% of the UN's $5.4 billion budget for 2016 and 2017, the maximum contribution allowed. State Department documents confirm the U.S. allocated $1.2 billion toward the budget during these years. U.S. funding of UN operations is under scrutiny after 128 member states voted to condemn President Donald Trump's decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital Thursday. Trump threatened to cut U.S. funding to countries that voted for the resolution. U.S. Ambassador Nikki Haley called the resolution disrespectful, particularly because the U.S. pays more than any other country to the UN. "When we make generous contributions to the UN, we also have legitimate expectation that our goodwill is recognized and respected," she said in remarks before the UN General Assembly Thursday. Then Haley announced Sunday that the U.S. had negotiated a $285 million cut for the UN's 2018 to 2019 budget. The new budget reduced the UN's bloated management and support functions, bolstered support for key U.S. priorities throughout the world, and instilled more discipline and accountability throughout the UN system, according to a statement from Haley's office. Some argue the U.S. contribution share is reasonable since the U.S. accounts for about a quarter of the world's income. The next highest contributors to the UN budget are Japan at 9.7% and China at 7.9%, although China holds the second largest share of world income at 14%. Related, Sarah Sanders is winning hearts with a post-Christmas tribute to Hero Brothers. Gorka also correctly stated the U.S. pays for 28% of the UN's peacekeeping budget, which costs the U.S. about $2.4 billion per year. The UN agreed in June to cut its peacekeeping budget by $570 million to $7.3 billion after pressure from the U.S. The U.S. wanted to cut the peacekeeping budget to under $7 billion. "Just 5 months into our time here, we've already been able to cut over $500 million from the UN peacekeeping budget and we're only getting started," Haley said in June when she announced the cuts. In addition to the UN regular and peacekeeping budgets, the U.S. contributes to UN agencies like the World Health Organization, World Food Program and UNICEF. The U.S. contributed $1.5 billion to the UN Refugee Agency in 2016, 38% of the agency's total revenue. This is the largest proportion of UN agency revenue funded by the U.S. The U.S. contributed more than $10 billion in total to UN agencies in 2016, of which $6 billion was voluntary, according to the Council on Foreign Relations. UN contributions account for about 20% of U.S. foreign aid spending each year. Critics of U.S.-led budget cuts worry they will harm UN programs and threaten agreed-upon contribution levels. But the U.S. has shown no signs it will reverse course. "We will no longer let the generosity of the American people be taken advantage of or remain unchecked," Haley said in a statement Sunday. A version of this article appeared on the Daily Caller News Foundation website. What do you think? Scroll down to comment below.
This has been the Trump Breaking News Network. Please subscribe and share to stay up to date on the latest news about our president. Be informed.